Want to achieve network marketing success? Then you're in the right company. Hello, and welcome to Leave Nothing to Chance, hosted by networking marketing giant, John Solleder. Learn everything you need to know about the network marketing space from somebody who's actually done it. Join us every week for front row seats as we feature some of the finest and most successful personalities in network marketing. Leave nothing to chance. Join us now.
Well, hey, it is a pleasure of mine and an honor to welcome a prior guest. I never want to say an old guest, a prior guest of Leaving Nothing to Chance, a man who is an icon in network marketing. And I got to say, one of the hardest working people in network marketing, because Dan never stops working on Dan. And one of the life lessons I think that I learned from Dan is never to stop working on John. That the job is never done. The reading is never done. There's not enough that you could know. I mean, this man, when we say a student of self-development, he is the poster child when you open the book and say self-development. He is at it all the time. Every time I talk to him, he enlightens me with what he's reading or what he's doing or what he's acting on. So anyway, icon in the industry, legend in the industry, one of the top earners in the industry, great guy, grandfather to 14 grandchildren now. 15. My wife said to me last night, she's like, so how come Dan's still working as hard as you are? I go, because he's got 14 grandkids. This could happen to me. I don't know. Anyway, Dan, welcome to the show, my friend.
It's great to be with you. And, I was just kind of thinking with your background there, leaving nothing to chance. And I remember the first time we spoke about your book and we talked about what an amazing accomplishment that is to be an author. And I think if I recall, what I was so impressed with about your book was each of the chapters was a principle. And as I think I explained on the last show, I love the word principle because this man right here, Arthur Watkins, at the age of 96, taught me, he was a linguist. He knew every Indo-European language. And when I asked him about the word principle, he just crossed his arms, closed his eyes, and went P-R-I-N, prin. He says, that's a strong channel. And then P-L-E, that's moving you forward. And your book is a principle-based book full of strong channels moving people's life and business forward. And so that's my recollection. When I see your background, I just remember that it just lit up because I love principles so much.
Thank you. And thank you for the compliment. And that's 96, huh? It's amazing in itself.
It was amazing.
So Dan, let's start off. What is on Dan McCormick's coffee table as we speak? What are you reading? Because I know you're always reading.
Okay, so I'm always working on my body. The mind, obviously, you need for you and the books and the journals and all the stuff that I got surrounding me. But I go in regularly. I have a series of people that work on my body. And I got acupuncturists and I have Stecco massage people, which is an Italian deep tissue. I have Feldenkrais, which is an Israeli soft tissue. I have all these different kinds of people. So I go in to see my local Chinese acupuncturist and I give the credit card to her secretary. She's wonderful. I'm kind of like, hey, I'm walking out the door and I go, wait a minute. What's this? There was a stack of these books. And I thought, well, I should probably read that. I said, why don't you just put that on the credit card as well? And she said, no, those are free. So I grabbed this book from this New York Times best-selling author called The Greatest Forgiveness.
Great title.
So it is a great title, obviously. The greatest salesman in the world, the greatest secret in the world, the greatest success in the world, Og Mandino. So when I saw The Greatest Forgiveness, I'm a word junkie. So the word caught me. And so I keep it next to my bed and I try to read just a few pages every night, ponder, and just think about what is the greatest forgiveness. That's for you and the listeners to decide for them. So if you want to know what I'm reading, that's kind of what I've been reading.
And who's the author?
I don't know how to say the name. It's Dr. and Master Genshai. Is that back?
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Okay.
SHA. Okay, great.
Yeah.
And I know that you probably have a new word for us.
Okay, so we talked about principle, the origin of the word. So I'll go back to my friend here, and that's Arthur Watkins, God rest his soul. He was an amazing contributor. So one of the words that hung on our raising our children, we had 4 teenagers at the same time. All 4 daughters were teenagers at the same time. And so we would have a word of the year. We would have a crossword puzzle in the family with the word, each person picking the word. And we carried that on for several years with our kids and then their husbands. And I remember my wife printing this off because she was so impressed. And I remember Kevin Hall, the author of the book Aspire. I'd be happy to recommend an introduction to you if you want to have him on your show. His new book will be coming out real soon. It's going to be special. Okay, so for those that are watching, the word that became the secret word, actually referred to around the world as the secret word by Kevin Hall in his book Aspire. I think nearly 1 million copies sold now. Probably has been out for 10 years now. Is a word that he was visiting Austria to go visit the widower of Man's Search for Meaning. The author of Man's Search for Meaning is
Viktor Frankl.
Viktor Frankl, his widower. He was going to visit her because Viktor Frankl had a vision of having not just the Statue of Liberty on one coast, but another statue on the other coast, and them holding hands together, bringing the country together. The Statue of Liberty on one coast and the Statue of Responsibility, if I recall, in San Diego. And while he was going to meet her, he walked into a fabric store. And this gentleman got talking to Kevin and says, "Oh, I'm here to meet with Viktor Frankl's widower." And he says, "Oh, wow. He says, "If you're here to see her, you must sign my book of greats." Kevin says, "Oh, I could never sign your book of greats. I mean, Mother Teresa is in your book. I mean, you've got all these amazing people on your book of greats. I could never sign that." And he says, "Kevin, we're new friends. Let's go to dinner." And he says, "Let me teach you the word that I learned from my parents." And the word is Genshai. Genshai. The secret word is Genshai. Now, what that means is something very interesting, whether you're listening today as a spouse, a son, a daughter, a friend, a neighbor, a grandpa, a grandma, a network marketing entrepreneur. Think about how you would feel if you just understood the meaning of this word as our friend leans over to Kevin and he says, Genshai simply means never to treat another person small. And where does that start? With yourself. So think about all of the thoughts that go through our minds. Think about how we can, just say, "Oh, just another dumb thing by me," or "Oh, I should have done it. Oh, I should have done it." Right? We have these thoughts, and I try to coach people. Look, there's words that you got to get rid of in your language. Whether it's "I'm scared to do this," or "I'm nervous to do that," or "I'm no good at this," or etc. So in the book of greats, Kevin signed the book of greats. And it is an amazing thing to think about the foundational elements of Genshai, never to treat another person small. And it starts with you and what you say to yourself every day. Genshai.
Dan, you're hitting a nerve. Okay, with that word and that concept. And I've never heard that concept before, but you and I have both been around some very successful people, not only network marketing, but other business and sports and, all sorts of things. And what amazes me is most people that are successful are consistent. For example, when I saw Zig Ziglar get out of his car when his wife's hair salon was next to my gym, and he walked around, he took her out of the car, took her arm, took her in, and then came back and picked her up a couple hours later. Nobody was watching. To his knowledge, I was. Okay. And you see that, but you see the other side of it. You see somebody who will literally kiss up to somebody to get what they want in business. And then they'll go and they'll have $100 meal and tip a waiter $3. And you're like, that's inconsistent with how you should live your life. That waiter's working hard for his or her money too. They showed up, they got bills to pay, at least give them 18%, assuming they did a decent job, right? Or they yell at somebody who is supposedly beneath them, and you go, wow, that's inconsistent with what you just talked about. And it's so important that we're consistent throughout our lives with treating everybody with the respect that all humanity deserves. Man, I love that word, boy. What's the origin of that? It sounds like maybe a Japanese word?
Indian. So Praveen Shakori is the man that owned the fabric store that I was fortunate to meet one time. And you'll read the entire story in detail when you pick up the book Aspire. And I'll get Kevin for you. His new book is close to being done. So maybe you want him on for this one and then one for the new book.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you think about what he did, he tried to write Discovering Your Purpose Through the Power of Words. And so if you ask your audience, your organization, your teams, whoever's watching today, or might watch 6 months or 6 years from now, if you think about what is your favorite word, we all have a word, and you just used one of my very, very, very top favorite, which is consistency. Because, as a young man, when I got started in network marketing at 19, I thought maybe I can't do that meeting very well. Maybe I don't answer that phone very well when we answered phones and we had phone scripts and all that stuff. But what I can do is show up every day. And I had a friend share with me this concept. I think this is valuable. It's worth writing down for those that are taking notes. And that is, if you're going to be here for the good times, you have to be here all the time. And that's what I thought I could do. I thought I could show up. So let me share a story with you about me showing up. Last night, so this is, okay, now look, there's a lot of errors and a lot of flaws in the chinks in the armor, as they say. So I have this friend of mine who's a high-level security guard, like high-level, James Bond kind of stuff. Out of this world stories like you can't believe. So I go over to the gym, and he's been a customer. Him and his wife have been a customer for years. We happen to have a new best-selling product out that I thought he would like. And I'd been over to the gym a couple times. I don't go to that gym anymore. And so I thought, he's been on my products for years. I should take him this new product as a gift. And I went in last night and I caught him and I said, hey, Joseph, I'm going to leave for Idaho again soon. I live in Orange County, California. I live in Idaho in the summers. And I said, I just wanted to give you this gift. I knew your wife, I think your wife and you would love it. I showed him some pictures of before and after pictures of better hair, skin, and nails. And he went home, thanked me profusely, and his wife ordered 2 boxes online that night.
Nice.
Now, that is just me showing up, thanking my customer, a true customer that has never been a business person with me, just somebody that uses my product. And so I just love showing up. I'm not the best at anything, but I am pretty good at showing up.
That's what do they say? 99% of life is showing up. Right?
Hey, those are a lot of odds, man.
If you don't show up, nothing happens.
Exactly.
And you know what? To that point, and folks, I really want you younger network marketing people to listen. Dan, how many years with your current company?
20th year.
20th year. So 20 years, and how many years doing this for a living?
39.
39. So same as me, right? I'll be 39 April 18th.
Yep.
Right. So 39 years, still has the desire to go and say, hey, I got a customer, and that customer might like my new product, and I need to tell them about it.
Love it.
Let that be a lesson for all of you younger folks in the business, whether you're younger chronologically or you're chronologically younger in the business, that Dan still does that, to his credit. Hey, Dan, let me ask you this. The last few years have been nuts. How does Dan McCormick keep his attitude so level-headed and enthusiastic about everything from your business to your life, to your family, to your faith? I mean, how do you keep it all together the way that you have the last couple of years.
Okay, I got another word for you. And this will answer the next two questions, maybe, or your follow-up question. I'm trying to think out loud in front of what your next follow-up question might be. So here's the sacred wisdom literature that I read every morning, okay? And, you know, most people are familiar with this Matthew scripture that says, be ye therefore perfect. So I'm thinking about your question. I'm pondering, and I'm thinking about this Matthew scripture, be ye therefore perfect. Well, let's just think about a couple of things that obviously, potentially I could be perfect in. Showing up every day, maybe one. Let's just say that I want to be a perfect tithe payer. If I make $100, am I giving 10 every time to my church? So I could be perfect in that. But there's a new word that struck me. In order for me to be perfect, I've got to be present. And I've really pondered that, and I've thought long and hard about it, because I think most of our lives are lived through the paradigm of what's happened to us in the past and what we're looking forward to in the future. Let's just say that you are a student at Kansas or North Carolina. What did you spend your entire weekend doing? Just thinking about the future of what that game could be like on Monday night. Or let's just say you have tickets to the Masters this week, and then today it gets rained out. You know, there's so many things about how we are looking back and we're looking forward. So I thought about your question, and I thought, how do you keep your attitude right in all the craziness? And how do you lead your teams during the craziness? I think nothing is more important than being present for them. And if I'm consistently present, then I believe that I'm doing the best that I know how to do. And I can't be anything more than that. So oftentimes when people say, hey, how you doing? I mean, people have known me for years. My kids are going to fill in the line. And where was I the other day? And someone saw me and just said before I could even answer the question, oh, he's having the best day of his life. And I'll never forget getting on an airplane years ago. And this guy was sitting next to me. He was so puzzled that I could be having the best day of my life. He looked at me like in complete stress. Like, do you have kids? And I said, yeah, I have 4 daughters. He says, how can you be having the best day of your life? I said, well, look, that was the most spiritual 4 days of my life, watching them coming to this world. But I often will say, people say, well, how can you be having the best day of your life? Well, tomorrow is not here and yesterday is gone. So yesterday's gone, tomorrow's not here. So be ye therefore perfect. I have to be present. And so I have to have the best day of my life. Tomorrow's not here. I'm not promised tomorrow, Og Mandino says in The Greatest Salesman in the World. So I think to answer your question, and I hope that the listeners can appreciate that, I mean, why are these words favorites of mine? Why are these concepts and principles favorites of mine? Because they're my weaknesses. I got to remind myself of these things. I got to say these things. I've got to live these things. I've got to ask myself, what is the greatest forgiveness for me? So hopefully I answered your question. Now let's take that to network marketing. Now, if we're going to take a concept or what I call a principle of the art, I call it the art in my training classes that I do. I do a whole training class every single month for my teams called the art on the 3rd Saturday of the month. And what is the art that you and I have grown up to know? And that is, we live in an event cycle. This today is an event for me and you to put on that somebody will be watching later. But if you and I were doing a live meeting tomorrow night at the Westin Hotel, Dallas, Texas, you and I both know that the flyers would be out, the promotions would be out, the distributors would be texting, calling, Zooming, 3-waying, everything they could be doing to promote that John Solleder and Dan McCormick are doing a meeting tomorrow night, and they're going to be talking about personal development, leaving nothing to chance, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That is the art. And that's the belief, the art of recruiting and promotion. So that's the principle. And so I live in the world of today knowing that I have to be present to promote what is, in front of me. But I'm living here today to do the best I can for my team. And I just have this feeling that while our industry is always going to find a bull market for somebody, I mean, there's always something to sell, an event, a product, right? There's always something. So I really love the idea of be ye therefore perfect. How do I do that? I can show up every morning. I can prepare myself. And that's, by the way, I keep a list of all of my favorite words that start with P, and I've got pages of them. Okay. I've got pages of them. So when you think about the word present, preserve, right? Purpose, right? Privilege, precise, prudent, plead, prosper, present, all these words. I mean, I keep a list of just my favorite words that start with P because it's my favorite letter.
Wow. So during the pandemic, was there anything special that you did in addition to what you just shared, just to kind of keep people on track? I mean, I think being present.
I made a mistake. I made a mistake a few years ago, and I promised myself I wouldn't make this mistake again. And I had this lady that joined my team that if I told you the volume she did in her first month, no one would believe. They would hang up on this call right now. It was volume that was so staggering. We yearned to do it in a year. Some would yearn to do it in a lifetime, and she did it in a month. And she was the first person on my team that did something in a very, very big way in social media. And this is 5-6 years ago now. And so I kind of stepped back and I thought to myself, well, I wonder if, because technology changed and this new rhythm to social media took over, that I wonder if they know something I don't. John, she's barely in the business today.
Is that right?
So here was the mistake I made. I stepped back from the most important thing you can really understand. Too many times I say the most important thing or it is the thing, but it's one of the critical things. And that is, you and I both know that if for unforeseen circumstances, you and I had to go out and rebuild starting tomorrow, we might be able to rebuild pretty quickly, but it takes a minimum 18 months to 36 months to create a new culture.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't get this team indoctrinated into the culture of self-help, personal development, leadership. Okay. And by the way, leadership, LEA, is path. DUR is finder. So you can't ever assume for a minute that you can take your foot off the gas of culture. And that's why I never stopped doing what I do. So if there was anything that I learned from pre-craziness times to getting in, it's do not veer from principles. Remember, those are the strong channels that move you forward. And you've got to show up when you don't know what to say. You've got to show up when you're not sure if it's going to resonate. But here's the thing. The reason my show has been a success for 20 years every single Saturday is because principles always resonate with somebody.
Mm-hmm.
People may choose to leave your team. People will never forget the title of your book, Leaving Nothing to Chance, and those principles being taught in it.
So, Dan, 20 years with the same company, 39 years in the industry, and successful everywhere you've been. Got some really hard questions for you. Here's the first one. What makes a great company? Why have you stayed where you are 20 years? Some ups and downs, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's, everybody always thinks guys like us, it's all up. Everybody we talk to comes into business. Yeah, right. We never have a bad day. We never have a declined credit card. We never, everybody we talk to is just going, they're all Bill Gates, their credit card's good.
Right.
It's like, everybody shows up, and we never do a Zoom call at the wrong time. Nothing ever happens to us, right? 20 years, same company. You've been incredibly successful. But let's talk about the company for a minute. Without specifics, obviously, because we keep this generic. But what makes a great company? Why have you stuck around those guys instead of being like some of our colleagues that are in the MLM of the Month Club or in the MLM of the Year Club? What makes a great company, which made you stay all these years and keep building?
In the world of the stock market, there are over 10,000 publicly traded companies. Very few of them become iconic companies. There's biotech companies that are constantly just doing research. There's technology companies that technology changes. There's airline, there's transports, there's all kinds of cyclical natures to companies. And usually it comes down to great management. You want great people that can manage a company, and you want great distributors that can promote the company and the product and the vision of the future. I think that if there's something that I feel like I've learned early on from a lot of the mentors in the industry is you're even though I am in the present, there's always a carrot out there for somebody in a new organization and a new team to be working towards the dream of putting their toes in the sand. I mean, that is special. I remember my first trip to Waikiki. I remember hanging out with our friends on the beaches of Waikiki on my very first trip, just going, wow. Here I am, 19 years old, going, wow. And then last 2 weekends ago, I went to that same beach and said, wow, here I am. This is where it started. I went over to visit. One of my kids was over there visiting the North Shore of Oahu, and I went over there and hung out with some friends, visited an old high school friend. But great management cannot be underscored enough, because let's just surmise that you have a great product and awful management. You're going to be out of business. If you can't manage finances, if you can't manage inventory, if you can't manage what your comp plan is paying out. So I think first and foremost, it's management. Certainly, I think you need a big story. You need a big story. You tell a big story. I tell a big story. We tell a story that's in the billions and trillions, right? These markets are massive in scope. But at the end of the day, no matter how big, you and I both could get off this phone and we could list the 20 or so companies that do $1 billion a year or more in our industry. Might be another 50 or so that do 100 million or more. But you know what? There are hundreds and thousands that have labored on the bottom end of that have gone in and out of business. Management changes, leadership changes, product changes, comp plan changes galore, and you can't get that rhythm. So hopefully I answered your question, but I think that if I look at publicly traded companies, I'm going to make an investment. I want to know that I have great managers that have great that understand their fiduciary responsibility. And I also want to have a product that tells a big story. And you and I both could look at two of those bigger billion-dollar companies, 3 or 4 or 5 of those bigger billion-dollar companies. They don't pay out what your company and my company pays out, but they created a culture and they got great management. Mm-hmm. They have an event cycle. They have products that are good enough for the masses. So I think I answered your question. And I hope that anyone that's watching here today, if you know you got great management, then you have to ask yourself, am I on it and in it for the journey? Am I flipping quarters just to say, next? I don't think so. If you got great management, great company, great products, then it's up to you. You got to look at yourself in the mirror and say, what am I doing? We have some of the biggest, fastest growing people in the history of a what are we, 36, 7, 8, 38 years old, publicly traded, and, multi-billions. And we got some of the fastest growing people ever right now. It's crazy.
Exactly. Well, it shows where the industry's going.
Yes.
But before I get to my last question, Dan's referenced my books a couple of times, folks. So my wife says I have to run an ad on these shows or she won't let me do them anymore. So I'm going to do that. Leave nothing to chance. Whoops. Okay, there you go. Leave nothing to chance.
Love it.
Okay, there you go. On Amazon.
Hey, John, do me a favor. Do me a favor for our listeners here today that have not read the book. Just open to the table of contents and read me the first 3 chapter titles.
Sure.
Because I didn't bring mine in the room. I think it's in my Idaho house.
All righty.
First 3 chapter titles.
3 chapters. Number 1, principle 1, wake up excited for the day.
Did I cover that? Did I cover that?
Yes, you did.
Okay, number 2.
Principle 2, listen to your reason. It's the heart of the matter.
Beautiful.
You think you hit that? Principle 3, instill the right mindset and you'll have no choice but to succeed.
See, I love it because those principles are all moving lives forward.
And you can get it at Amazon in English, Spanish, or digital. And you can get my prior book, Moving Up 2020.
And like I like to say, don't buy one, buy 10. Don't buy one, buy 10.
Give them away, folks. You know why? Not only is Dan talked about in one book, but so are so many other leaders, because these books aren't about me. I just collated the information from all of these great leaders like Dan and others that you can use for your business. And, Dan, one of the things I love, and I've loved about this business now for 39 years for me this month in the industry. And one of the things I love is, once you hear an idea and it comes out of somebody else's mouth, it's yours. It's yours. I mean, 39 years ago, you and I heard the same statement, right? For things to change, you have to change. For things to get better, you have to get better. And I always thought that our friend Larry Thompson had created that. I don't know why I thought that. Larry never said he said that. And I was talking to Ron Henley one day, the curator of the Network Marketing Historical Society in Atlanta, Georgia. And Ron said, no. He said, that came from Jim. Jim Rohn said that back in like 1958 or something, right? So,
and he might have heard it from Mr. Schoaf.
Exactly. And he may have heard it at church, who knows?
Heard it at church.
But once we all heard it and repeated it, there's thousands of people around the world just on that one statement alone that Dan and I have said repeatedly, right? As well as other things that other people have used and more importantly adopted. So Dan,
say that statement one more time, and then I'm going to read you the reference to it in the scriptures.
Okay, great. For things to change, you have to change. And
okay.
For things to get better, you have to get better.
Okay, here's King James Version, Romans 12:2. This is where I think it came from. I think Paul preceded all of those people you just talked about.
By a few years, yeah. His organization's really old.
Yeah, really old. Okay, here's what he says. Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind.
Nice.
12:2, Romans 12:2. So for things to change, you got to change. For things to get better, you got to get better. How can you possibly become what you're not thinking about, right? So if you're going to be transformed by the renewing of your mind, then you got to go back to principle number 1 of your book, principle number 2, principle number 3, and all the things we've talked about here. And it can have a profound impact on your life if you will be therefore perfect by being present each and every day.
Absolutely. So Dan, the last question, and boy, we could go on for days, and folks, we are going to go on for days because Dan and I are going to do 2 more interviews over the next few weeks or so. So we'll have dates for those, but one of them is going to be hopefully with somebody really, really significant that Dan's worked with. And I won't mention it until we have him confirmed, but Dan and I, one way or another, will be talking about one of his favorite subjects. Dan, you want to give a commercial, if you would?
Obviously, the first book ever put in my hand was The Greatest Salesman in the World. The Greatest Secret in the World is the journalized version of that book by Og Mandino. And Og passed away. No kidding. This is kind of interesting. He passed away 1 week after his final speech was given at our company convention in 1996.
Is that right? I didn't know that.
Og Mandino's books are now 54 years, I think 1968. So 54 years since Rich and Jay held those books up on the Amway stage in 1968 and said, everybody should read this. So we'll talk a lot more about those scrolls and about those principles, if you will, in The Greatest Salesman in the World.
And then we're going to do another show similar to a show that we did with the great Joe Garcia from the company that he's with in Canada, 21 years, and Keith Hooper, who's with the company he's with 25 years. We did a similar show. We're going to do a show with Dan and one of our other colleagues, yet to be named, on the longevity of staying with one company for a long time. Because, Dan, one thing you and I know is, we know a lot of successful people. One of the things they have in common is they stuck around. They went through those ups and downs. And, I relate this, Dan. I got a new one for you. Okay. Because you give me so much. I got to give you one in return.
My pen is hit writing.
And you'll love this. Round 14, Rocky won. Round 14.
Oh, wow.
Rocky won. Okay. Now think about that scene for a second, everybody. Right? Rocky's getting the you-know-what knocked out of him. The third time that Apollo's knocked him down in the round. Burgess Meredith, his managers even saying, stay down, stay down. And Rocky grabs the rope and he works his way up. And even Apollo looks across the ring like, man, you are insane.
Yeah.
Well, if you're going to build a network marketing business, for that matter, if you're going to build any business, that's what it can be like some days. But you know what? It's not getting knocked down that matters. It's getting up that matters. And
Wow.
Dan, you've been a person who's done that throughout your life, throughout your career. I know your early life story. Certainly some of our listeners do from prior shows, but you've become such a great and respected leader, not only in your company, but throughout the industry. Anybody I mentioned, I'm going to interview Dan McCormick. It's like, oh, Dan McCormick, I heard him here. I heard Dan McCormick's amazing. I love Dan McCormick. People that you don't even know who they are. You've got fans all over the world.
You're kind.
Dan, you understand leadership. So my last question to you on this interview, my friend, what makes a great leader?
So when you think about the word pathfinder, LEA, path, DUR, finder, you think about what leaders do. And oftentimes, the greatest leaders I've ever been around challenge. Great leaders don't just lead by doing, they challenge their leaders. So oftentimes, I will get on my very top text stream of leaders, and I will challenge them. I will recognize them. I will congratulate them, but I will challenge them to do what? Do more, be more, love more, serve more, follow up more, right? Recruit more. All of those things great leaders often challenge. One of the things that I challenge my team to spend most of their time on is constantly looking at their systems and asking them, how do I keep it simpler? How do I make it streamlined even better to onboard? And you and I both know that Larry used to teach early on, hey, if we could get someone to have success in that first 24, 48 hours, big deal, right? How do I get someone to put money in their pocket today? Doesn't matter the amount, something, anything, so that they can feel rewarded. So I think that great leaders challenge, and I really love my greatest mentors in life, truly genuine, authentic, beautiful souls, real souls that care about people. When the camera's not on, they challenge.
Wow. Great answer. Great answer. Love it. Love it. And I know you
love you, brother.
I know you love a challenge. I love a challenge. So, hey, Dan McCormick, thank you, my friend. Wonderful as always, insightful. I could listen to Dan forever. And I know, well, I get the feedback from the show, and we got a lot of great people that have been on here. But every time that you're on, man, I get people are going like, who is that guy? You know, like if they don't know you, they're like, that guy's amazing. Like, where do I go to his seminars and his speeches? I'm like, well, I just call him. He'll talk to you, you know, and he'll talk to you. Dan will talk to anybody. Okay.
I do.
He's a giver and he's a leader. So Dan, thank you so much, my friend. And I'm looking forward to that next show.
You're the best. Thank you, everybody. God bless you.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Leave Nothing to Chance. If you want to know more about what it takes to succeed in the network marketing space, join us again next week for another amazing episode. For additional resources and to connect with John Solleder, visit leavingnothingtochance.com. Don't forget to leave a review, and we'll see you next time.